Most people think blended attribution is about making a fancy report. They think it's about some magic algorithm that spreads credit evenly across all channels. Wrong. That's just last click with a different name. Real blended attribution means understanding the full customer journey, from radio to search, from awareness to conversion. You're not trying to prove your channels are equally valuable. You're proving which ones actually create demand and which ones just capture it. That's what kills campaigns. They see the last click from paid search, say that channel is working, and then they cut the radio budget, even though the radio ad created that spike in branded search traffic that led to the conversion. You can't build a system on top of a misunderstanding like that. And if you're doing it right, the client won't even know you're doing it. But they'll notice that lead volume went up while your media budget went down. The client will ask why you're not spending more on search because search is clearly working. They're wrong. Search is capturing. Radio created the demand. You are. This is AI Lead Generation Agency Marketing, where we teach marketing leaders to build scalable lead generation systems. I'm Mikey, and today we're talking about blended attribution without the silos. Here's how most agencies do it wrong. They take each channel's cost per lead, they add up the results, and they call it a day. So if radio costs $10, social costs $8, and search costs $12, they throw them all into one big pie chart. It's like saying the best team is the one that has the most players on it. That's not how sports work, and that's not how lead generation works. Blended attribution isn't about adding numbers together. It's about modeling the real customer journey and giving credit where it's earned. You're watching the radio ad, then seeing what happens in search traffic. You're watching for that lift in branded searches that proves your media dollars created demand, even if no click ever touched it directly. The key insight is this: traditional media and digital are not rivals, they're a relay. Radio warms the market, then search closes the deal. You don't want to starve the warming by only rewarding the closing. You need to model reach and frequency across all channels together. That's how you see the real handoff between radio and search. So what do? First, track branded search volume immediately after your media airings. Not days later, not weeks later, right when the ad hits. Watch that lift. That's your proof that your media is creating demand. Then build a predictive model for how all those touch points work together. Machine learning helps here because it can see patterns in customer behavior that we never notice ourselves. The algorithm looks at the sequence of interactions and figures out where credit should go. Track metrics like blended CPQL, which is one number that shows you the true cost of getting a qualified lead from your entire system. That way, instead of defending each channel in a monthly call, you're showing how they all work together. And if you only measure last click, you systematically defund the channels that create demand and overfund the ones that harvest it. Your client's lead volume will quietly decline even as their search performance looks great. This is where AI makes a difference. We don't build models, we build systems that run on those models. We track all your touch points. We watch the handoff between radio and search. We model how they work together. You start with 3 steps. First, measure the direct impact of traditional media on branded search traffic. Second, build a predictive model that assigns credit based on how customers actually move through the funnel. Third, report blended CPQL instead of individual channel costs. That single change shifts the conversation from "why isn't this channel working?" to "how do we tune the system?" The real magic happens when you look at what your customer journey looks like, not just what happened last. When someone hears a radio ad and then searches for your brand, that's a pattern that needs credit. When that person converts through search, that's not a separate event, that's a handoff. Your model should account for reach and frequency across traditional and digital together, not separate them like they're competing against each other. The goal isn't to prove every channel is equally valuable. It's to prove which ones are creating the demand that makes everything else possible. Mistake number 1, thinking this is about fixing your reporting. It's not. It's about fixing your understanding of what actually drives leads. If you're only measuring last click, you're missing all the real work that happens before that final click. Mistake 2, measuring each channel in isolation instead of together. You can't know how radio helped search if you're looking at them as separate things. They're not separate, they're a relay. Mistake 3, believing you can do this with spreadsheets and manual tracking. If you're still counting clicks by hand, you're missing the patterns that AI finds automatically. The data is too big for humans to process properly. And mistake 4? Thinking blended attribution is a one-time thing. It's not. You have to keep updating your model based on new data, new behaviors, new customer journeys. That's the harder part. The model has to change as your customers learn and adapt. Your channels have to work together differently over time. You can't just measure once and call it done. The real takeaway is simple. Report blended CPQL instead of siloed channel costs. That one change alone will shift the conversation with clients from a defensive battle between channels to a productive system tuning session. You're not competing against your own media. You're working together as a team, and that's what creates scalable lead generation systems. That's AI lead generation agency marketing. If you want to learn how to build these systems yourself, get inside the course at learn.mikey.ai. I'm Mikey. Go tune your system.